Today we're going to talk about anthropomorphic characters in comic books. Rabbit samurai are culturally effed. The comic as we know it emerged as political cartoons in the early 18th century in Europe. This is when the speech bubble was introduced. It was about this time that Japanese manga started to gain popularity in its own right. Both of these movements were completely autonomous from one another. Comics and manga became mass culture by the end of the 19th century, albeit they were largely considered lowbrow, meant for children in the illiterate lower classes. In the West, some of the first mass-produced comics were pornographic in nature. They were called Tijuana Bibles, small, palm-sized, 8-page comics that used the likenesses of film and sports stars, including Minnie and Mickey Mouse. This was, in fact, the earliest point in comic history that I could find a use of what would later be called funny animals. Strange that it's pornographic, but I guess even the 1920s had a Rule 34. Comics came into their own throughout the 20th century, driving through the golden and silver ages that spawned so many characters that we remember, and a lot more that we don't. The underground movement of indie comics, that's comics spelled with an X, continued the pornographic traditions of the Tijuana Bible, but also included satire, LGBT works, and university publications like Fritz the Cat, which was later made into 2 animated films. In 1984, an underground comic blew up and changed the scene forever. Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird created the Ninja Turtles, which, if you're watching this, I have no doubt you're already familiar with them. This spawned a phenomenon that legitimized underground comics and brought them into the public spotlight. They caused what amounted to be a gold rush of independent comics. It was about this time that furry was starting to become its own thing, and an anthropomorphic-focused publication was released, Albedo Anthropomorphics. Usagi Yojimbo, written by Stan Sakai, is the story of a Ronin samurai rabbit in a starkly, mostly accurate feudal Japan. The world Stan builds is reflective of the simple traditional life and Japanese culture, while including all of the action-packed fight scenes of a Japanese 1960s movie. Miyamoto Usagi in his adventures fends off bandits, armies, rival samurai, but also demons and ghosts, and all other manner of myths and legends from Japanese history. Stan does take liberties in creating his own anthro-universe, replacing wildlife with lizards and having people use their natural animal talents. In his adventures, Usagi meets the greedy, brutish bounty hunter Rhino Gen, the fearsome feline Tomo based on the real-life samurai Tomo Gozen, and together they battle in and around the politics plaguing feudal Japan in the 13th century. Fueled by exotic ninja clans, the terrible snake lord Hibai, and the mysterious and malevolent wolf demon Jay. Stan originally intended for the story to feature human characters, but doodled his way into the striking image of a rabbit with his ears tied up in a top knot. Usagi made his first appearance in the short series The Adventures of Nilson Ground Thumper and Hermie, which was featured in Albedo #1 in 1984. Albedo Anthropomorphics started in 1983, a year before the explosion of Ninja Turtles. It continued its run all the way through 2005. Founded by Steve Galacci, the fanzine was intended as an adult anthology of anthropomorphic artwork, comics, and stories. Steve started with the series Emma Felna EDF and brought in other stories called High Orbit, Connie and Sue, Space Wolf, Watch Rats, and the very first episode of Usagi Yojimbo by Stan Sakai. In years to come, Usagi would be featured as a returning character within the Ninja Turtle universe, including an appearance in 2 episodes of the original TV series and the 2003 reboot. Stan also had a brief spin-off, Space Usagi, which reimagined the characters in a galactic, pulpy sci-fi setting. Since the inception of Albedo, many more furry publications have come in its wake. We've talked about Sofa Wolf Press in our episode on written works, but they and many independent artists also have a vast catalog of comics and graphic novels. Today we have remarkable and beautiful works out, such as Black Sad and Tooth and Claw out on the scene. Of course, comics have changed since the 1980s, and now we have countless webcomics and ongoing graphic series all focused around furry creatures. I've linked some of my favorites in the description below. Since it started, Usagi has had almost 200 separate issues, adding up to over 30 books and currently being reprinted in a larger collection series by Dark Horse Comics. Usagi Yojimbo has had 2 roleplay games designed after it that are compatible with other Anthro systems such as Ironclaw. In 2012, Sakai started a 2-year hiatus to work on other projects with Dark Horse, including illustrating for 47 Ronin. The hiatus hiatus came to an end in 2014 with the announcement of Usagi Yojimbo Senso, which is a spin on War of the Worlds. What do you guys think? Did furries start the underground comic movement of the late 80s? Tell me some of your favorite furry comics down in the comments. Culturally Left this week was brought to you by TCRI for all of your mutagen needs. Culturally Left was also brought to you by these mutants. If you have a suggestion for a future episode, you should tweet at us at CulturallyEffed or leave a message on our Facebook page. Next week, we're going to look at television and the 1980s and 90s toy boom. All of those companies trying to sell us really furry toys. See you next time.